seconded that. Is there any debate on this? Okay, I'm putting it to the vote on the voices. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 8, page 19. This is the report.
I'm choosing not to take part in that.
Right, okay.
You told me how to vote anyway, Gordon.
Right, so this is a okay, David, welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the report is pretty clear and can be taken as read. Is there any particular point you want to bring to our attention that isn't clear by us reading it?
No.
Great. Any questions? If there's no questions, councillors, I have done a bit of inquiry in relation to page 20 in the recommendation in relation to D. And I, just in terms of the Deputy Mayor salary, base plus what percentage? And I gave you some information. Thank you, Mary, for obtaining that information for us. And so I am happy to move the recommendation but with D, including that Deputy Mayor salary be base plus 30%, which I think brings us more in line with, and Councillor Gallagher will second that, more in line with other metros around. And I think, having now observed the responsibilities of the Deputy Mayor, I think that that is very appropriate, bearing in mind that we do have to front up to the authority to justify that, so they have to actually approve that. We don't, it's not just for us to decide, so that's got to be properly prepared by Jude, the democracy manager, and submitted for their approval. So I've moved and Councillor Gallagher second. Any? So I'm
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Of the CE? What was the average pay increase for non-management staff in council in the last?
So at the last round we were
Non-management.
Non-management. I can't give that information off the top of the head. We were working at a movement of no more than 1% across the organisation, is what we're trying to work within. At last, I'm talking about June last year, so there hasn't been a review since June 2015, and it was less than 1% was the average we're working at across the organisation, including management. And the senior leadership team didn't get an increase at that stage.
So what term was that from to?
That's from the financial year ending 30 June 2015, Councillor.
Ending 30 June 2015.
The next review round per our performance review program is 30 June 2016, which is this year.
And what is this review for? 16-17, is it?
That's correct. It's a performance-based system.
No, the review that we're talking about here for elected members.
Oh, this is only for the period of 1 July 2016 to 30 June 2017. Yes.
So our staff are a year behind on a review from what we're proposing now ourselves.
Yes. No, I will be doing a review with my team coming up again at 30 June 2016 for the 2016 year.
Okay.
So our performance period and performance objectives are set for the financial year, because that ties up the 10-year plan and so forth. It's easier to manage the business that way. And like I said, that's an average. We have a performance-based system, so based on your performance, you'll get plus or minus against that as well, Councillor.
So the average up until June 15 was 1%. What was this elected members increase for the equivalent period up to June 15? Or I know that it's slightly different. So does it the year before this review we're talking about for ourselves for 1.5%? What was our increase?
I don't have that information. I don't have that information readily available. Sorry, Councillor King.
Does anyone know what elected members received a year ago? What percentage?
69, I don't know. Enumeration authorities set this.
Yep.
That will be evidence in front of them.
I know we do, but I'm just making sure that our staff are getting a similar increase.
I think it was the remuneration authority, I think 3 years ago set was a 16.
Yeah, I think it wasn't done last year. I think it's done on
3 years ago. Yeah. So over 3 years, it's roughly been about 1.5%, I think. Sorry, it's just
Per
top of
year.
my head stuff from what I've seen. You need to go to the remuneration.
All right, any other questions on this? Okay, so,
As with all sort of remuneration things, you don't have to take it if you don't want it, do you?
No.
correct. So it's been moved by me and seconded by councillor Gallagher. I'll speak
I
to it
didn't
and then
take
I'll
my last
have
payment.
councillor McPherson. Those of us who have been here more than one term will recall that this initiative came about through a lot of lobbying by Local Government New Zealand and local authorities to have a system by which an independent body assessed the job and the capacity of the job and the size of the job. And those councillors who participated in that process will recall that they went across New Zealand, independent organisations, interviewing elected people to understand what they did to try and work out what kind of job description was appropriate and therefore what kind of remuneration was appropriate, which was a vast improvement, of course, on what the old system was, which I'm sure Councillor Gallagher will remember well. So the Remuneration Authority then subsequently touches base and reviews that periodically, which is very important as well. What it does do, though, is leaves for local authorities to determine within their council how to allocate the additional pool of money, should they decide to, based on the job that people might do, for example, chairs, deputy mayor, etc. We spent a very long time in 2013, after that election, debating that, and councillors will remember that. How might we allocate that pool or not? And we reached a position that is set out in paragraph 23, and those were the percentages. My view, having observed the workload of people, is that the deputy mayor role is a considerable amount of work, an enormous amount of work. And I don't think the base plus 25 accurately reflects the considerable increase in size that job requires. So that was my thought, having observed that. I further support why I've moved this with having a look around the rest of New Zealand at metros to see how they've done this. And as you can see, it is variable, which is interesting, but what does seem to be clear is that 30% above base or even higher is the norm. So that gives me a further confidence in this. And the third matter is that if this is passed, this has to be justified to the Remuneration Authority, and they will be the final decision maker. So that's a check and balance that we've got this right if this resolution passes. So that is why I have moved this motion, and I'm asking councillors to support it. Now I've got Councillor McPherson and Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, we should. There's two approaches that I've looked at here in a mathematical or statistical sense, and neither of them support the Mayor's conclusion of 30%. This doesn't relate to the current Deputy Mayor that we've got, so much as to the position. If you take the average of these largest cities, 7 largest cities in New Zealand, the average is actually 25.8%. So in other words, we're almost spot on it at the moment at the percentage difference from the base salary. That's one thing, and so if the actual average is 25.8%, so when you do the math, so that would be something that I would not oppose us going to. But the other thing I look at is what's the city closest in size to us, and I look at Tauranga, which is closest in size population-wise, and almost exactly on the same base salary, and they've only got a 7.2% difference. So if I were going to move from the current, or support a move from the current position, I would say the move should be in the other direction. But I don't think that would be fair given the workload that's involved. So I think on the balance, staying at 25% is the right position to follow.
Councillor Gallagher?
Yes, actually, I'm glad Councillor King raised the issue because historically there was a different formula that applied to local government. And historically, correct me if I'm wrong, Tauranga and Hamilton received a pay cut So in terms of this term, there was a actual reduction from the previous base salary because we had a pool and then we divided it up. So it was, you were just given a quantum and then you divide it up. The difference was the remuneration authority then actually set the actual quantum of the base salary, council's salary, and what that meant when you looked at the figures was Tauranga and Hamilton actually received a salary decrease. I would say that I don't necessarily think Tauranga, with respect to my good colleague Councillor McPherson, is a role model. I don't know if they've actually, with respect to Tauranga, have they or have they not sized that job. My own observation in terms of the current position of Deputy Mayor for a city with the size and complexity of Hamilton is I think 30% is better reflective. That brings us into line with Auckland, which is actually 43.5% above the base salary, Dunedin 30%, Wellington 30%, Palmerston North about 30%. I acknowledge Christchurch is 15%, but I notice in raw terms the Deputy Mayor gets there just under 100,000 down there. So I think that's probably, in terms of the position of Deputy Mayor for the city, the size and complexity of Hamilton, 30% is more accurate. And also I think we will have no problem whatsoever, in my view, justifying that to the remuneration authority, and I think we'll be certainly focusing on the role that the Deputy Mayor plays on some of the regional stuff as well. So I'm very comfortable, frankly, in seconding this particular motion.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against?
So there's $60,000 unspent this time if we don't do that. What happened for the last 2 years preceding this? So that the 59,876 unallocated, what's happened in the last 2 years to that allocated fund amount?
I'm aware that the last year there's still an unallocated amount unspent of $27,000. And if you go to the point 27 or 8, if it's not spent, it can't be carried over to previous years, to future years.
So it's actually ratepayers' money. It goes back to the ratepayer.
It doesn't come from the right.
So,
Yep.
so we're,
It's an under in there.
So we have a budgeted amount and we're underspending
Yep.
this year by $27,000.
yep, and that money goes back to the ratepayer,
It goes in the pool to support ratepayer
ratepayer
activities.
benefits. So for the last 2 years, the Deputy Mayor's been receiving 25%, and the unallocated amount has gone back to the ratepayer, back into the pool.
Correct.
So the ratepayer would benefit if we vote this down by
Theoretically, yes.
that amount of money. So is this a case of us using up money before we lose it between ourselves?
Oh, Councillor King, Councillor King, I think you
Wrong
would be
person to ask it
directing that question to me. That is absolutely not part of my thinking. I've articulated in the debate my reasoning behind this motion.
So for the last 2 years, we've had unallocated funds and we've let it go, but this year we're spending it. Ratepayers' money. We're using it up.
No, Councillor King,
We're reallocating
my
it.
motion is in relation to job size
Yep.
and description, because this is what this topic is about. If you want to know the mechanics of how the finances work with it, yes, you can direct those questions to the Corporate Services Manager.
So because the relook at the job sizing, if the unallocated money wasn't there, would you be taking it back off other chairs and deputy chairs and subcommittee chairs?
No, the unallocated money just
Well, hang on.
doesn't roll over.
This is towards
No,
Julie.
that's a finance
This is
question. I mean, the council has resolved the allocation of percentages. We did that as a council,
That's right, we did.
yes. Yeah.
And now we've ended up with this.
That was our decision, yeah.
So while we're trying to mop up the surplus, when for the last 2 years it's worked,
Right, so councillor
because
King,
it's your,
I have made my position very clear about this motion. And I've articulated that.
Second of what I would say is that I think that the so-called surplus was there also if there were special duties that councillors, or there were special roles to be appointed for specific one-off tasks, and there was some recognition. So that was the logic at the time. But let me assure the member, there's certainly no mop-up. This is purely that we've had a new determination from the Remuneration Authority. We are basically rolling over, if you like, the current structure with one exception and one exception only. Some of us have reflected, if you like, that the current sizing, if you like, of the Deputy Mayor's job relative to remuneration is a little bit out of kilter, and hence the additional 5%. So it goes from 25 to 30%, and obviously councillors can accept or reject, I guess, the recommendation contained within this motion
So has the Deputy Mayor's workload increased this year?
from July 1.
His workload's increased over the last 2 years?
And let me say, you know, having done this job a number of years ago, my observation is that in the current system of local government, the Deputy Mayor is pretty much here, dare I say it. I think the job is complex, and I think what is being proposed in this motion is a fairer and more accurate reflection of the job size that now is performed by the Office of Deputy Mayor in a city, in New Zealand's fourth largest city.
Okay, if we're in debate, so councillor King, have you finished your debate matters?
Thank you.
Okay, any other speakers for or against? Okay, so we're going to go to the board to vote on the motion. Are you able to put the motion up? Right, thank you. Another thing you need to look at, Richard, the slowness by which the communications go, the 8 metres to the board.
We're thinking about bringing in flip chart paper and writing them up by hand.
Flip chart, right. Okay. Can you read that? It's size 6 font.
No, after 30% is not the right amount there.
Look, you've even got Aaron putting his phone there so that he can enlarge it to read it. Okay. Right, we're voting, councillor.
Sorry, I just think the
amount 30%.
numerical quantum is not correct,
No.
all right? Just and just for accuracy, you might want to just
It's not 88,050.
No.
be 90.
No, that's right.
I think it'll be 91,573 approx.
I'm going to start the vote again.
I've used my smartphone. I think I've got it right.
So Corporate Services Manager, can you give the correct figure, thanks?
Yeah. According to my smartphone, it's that. But don't trust me.
Can you work it though, Martin? That would be the question.
No, Matt's. Yeah.
Meeting's falling apart.
It's all right, I've sent him instructions.
I took 2 goes to get school C maths, so
Oh.
that might
I know
tell you.
that from
I
your
did get it
comments
though,
before.
eventually.
Very
Don't
neat,
trust that.
That number is correct.
Yes, all right.
That's correct.
Is that the correct amount?
It is, Your Worship.
Thank-
Calculate abacus.
Okay, councillors, are you clear there?
Mary,
Can we,
All right? We're voting on that motion.
Push the board.
It's already done.
Are you happy for it to keep working on that because everybody had started voting, or do you want me to
Oh, no,
reset it?
Thanks.
Excuse me, Mayor, the
Deputy
note
Mayor.
E would need to be reduced by
Right.
that amount.
Can you tell us the figure, please?
Oh, that would have to be
Do it, Martin.
Oh, you got the wrong.
Smartphone out.
The smartphone is not.
That's what we pay Mary Birch for now.
What was the original amount?
So is the figure in this report here right?
It's 59 minus.
We're going 56,354.
There you go.
I remember how to be a CFO.
Okay, is that
Beat me to
correct?
it. Yes.
Right. Have we
Can
got
I have that
that?
audited, please?
All right, councillors, there's the motion. We've been reset. We're voting.
Gordon.
Oh, sorry.
The deputy
Sorry,
mayor is not.
sorry.
Reset.
I think Gordon
Gordon's
voted
not
against it, didn't he?
All right, voting.
Press the button.
Wait, let things go.
Okay,
Carried 8-2.
thank you, thank you. All right, next item is item 9, page
Gary's
23.
related to
I
the
have
dark
taken
side.
I've taken none of the increases.
Sorry, Gary, do you have a question?
I just need to apologise. I've just been advised that I need to get home reasonably smartly. I'm very sorry.
Okay, so just.
And I realise that
1, 2,
stuffs
3,
things up a
4,
bit, doesn't
5,
it?
6. So 7, so that'll be 7 councillors gone, so that won't be a quorum.
Ask Martin how that calculates out.
7?
13 minus
7
7,
gone.
Martin.
Oh, no. Madam Chair, Your Worship, I'm just wondering whether or not there could be a resolution to carry over the remainder or whatever we run out of quorum across to the S&P. You can,
Well,
you
I
can adjourn this meeting. I don't know what the local, I'm just trying to think of some
so
mechanics.
can I just check, councillors, when we get to that point, my indication is that everyone's pretty much going to leave on the same time you're going now?
I'll stay until 5:30 if that helps.
And councillor Gallagher, my thought is that given the size of the S&P agenda, that you will not be able to carry over any of these matters. So anyway, we press on. Page 23. So I think this report is clear on its face, but the Chief Executive, you speaking to that?
Yes, the report's fairly straightforward. So Section 17A of the Local Government Act requires a review of our local services, our regulatory functions and our infrastructure, provision of infrastructure within each triennium, but before August 2017. We've recommended here, noted here in the report that we've already undertaken similar reviews. This is business as usual for council. This is not a review with the view that's driven like we've done previously for cost cutting. This is a legislative requirement just to make sure that we do stack up. And the work we do, we don't enter into it with any predetermined outcome. We just test to see whether or not the provision of our services and how they're provided, so whether they're provided through collaboration with other parties, e.g. through LAS, whether they're provided through internal resources, or whether they're provided through some form of contracting out, or even infrastructure alliance, which is an alliance model or collaborative working agreement, is the best form for delivering those services to the ratepayers. We're recommending a review over a period of time with a couple of areas looked at this year. The review will consider, we'll use both internal and external resources, and that decision has been made based on the complexity of the area involved. The rest of the report fairly stacks up, I think. And
Right, so just a question. So I'm on paragraph 18, page 25. So I note that planning guidance and aquatic facilities don't have a date, but I'm assuming because they're under that bullet point that they also, or your intention is to complete those if possible by August 2016. Is that right?
it's our intention. I think there's already a number of pieces of work underway for aquatic services that need to come back, so probably more than likely aquatics will be reviewed as part before 2017. After that, we are spending a bit of time sizing out what it looks like to do the review of planning guidance, and our hope is to have that done by 2016, and that's what our intention is. The amount of work required can be quite significant, and we just need to consider that, and also be aware that this is unbudgeted. So I'm also just trying to balance up the fiscal responsibilities across periods as well, just to make sure we balance that as well. So 2 big reviews in 2016 plus the internal reviews might make the most sense, but definitely intend to do as much as we can.
So then, just listening to that, so we could include their dates as August 2016, knowing that that might be subject to the complexity and...
I definitely think we've got some work already underway for aquatics that's coming back that Lance had mentioned previously at the Finance Committee, so I definitely recommend that that is 2017. Planning... 17, because the other work's already underway, so that'll finish, whatever that leaves outstanding. So we're already looking at the provision of some functions within our aquatic services, as you're aware.
Yep.
Once that work's done, we can then pick up what's left and finish the review, which pushes into 2017.
Right, okay.
Planning guidance, it's every intent to do it this year, but I'd like the opportunity just to have a really good look at it before we commit to that.
All right, so if planning guidance is going to be done, then building control should be part of that, because Section 17A requires a consideration of regional options, you know, for joining up in the region. And we already do a lot, so, and those two go hand in hand.
Yep, that's right.
So, can I ask that building control and planning guidance be put together?
That's correct.
Right, so that's right. Okay. All right.
And a good part of, I think you just illustrated, Your Worship, a good part of this will validate some of the work we're already doing. We're doing some great work and some collaboration already across the region or sub-region, and this will just further provide support to that approach.
Okay, so would it be, is it satisfactory from your perspective to include in a recommendation related to this report that the planning guidance and building control review is included for completion in 2016? Not August necessarily, but in 2016. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I'm comfortable to that. If I have updated information, I'll just bring that back to council. Yep.
All right,
But if you
okay.
lock and load that.
Okay, I'll do that. So are there any other questions on this report? All right, if there's none, I'm going to move that, which is on page 23, which is that the report be received with the addition of planning guidance and building control reviews to be completed in 2016. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. There any debate on this topic? Right, so I might do this on the voices. All those in favour?
Sorry,
Complete by when? 2016?
Yes.
By, end of 2016?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. All right. So all those in favour? Any
Aye.
against? Okay, thanks very much. Right, the next item is item 10, community occupancy applications. So
Afternoon. We'll take the report as read. Happy to take any questions.
all right, thank you. I just checking. It's actually a question for the CE, to be honest, because looking at the CAB and their presence in Caro Street got me thinking about when we were going to receive the report just on the future options for Caro Street. So can you answer that, please, Richard?
It's an ongoing piece of work. As council will know, all Hamilton City Council employees are now out of the Caro building. And the view always was to look at the opportunities to actually use that building more productively. As part of that, we're looking at what the leasing options are and where the best place is for, and even which floors are the best floors for our community tenants to be located on as well as part of that. So, for example, 1 and 3 I think are available. I think 1 and 3 are available. I think 2 has the community tenants on it. It might be a better option to lease the building if we have the 2 floors that are vacant located together, for example. So we're going through that and looking at the options. So at the moment, we're not putting out that we're going to move anyone, but we'll bring a report back to council in terms of what those options look like.
Okay, so will you be ready then to bring that report back at the May council meeting? Because, we have been interested in what's going on there, and I think we do need to discuss what the future options are.
Yes, I'm getting a
Ready?
nod, so yes, we can bring a report back in May.
Okay, so I would be including that in the recommendation, councillors, because I think we do need to get on and decide what's happening there. Now, are there any questions specifically on this report?
No.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes, just in relation to B, Raukura, Kaora or Tainui, what I don't get actually from any of these much is a sense of how much of the building, other than must be pretty small in all cases because of the size of the rents and, less than 1,000. So I'm presuming some of that building still, it's not the whole building, it's an office or some offices in the building, so the rest is still available for more general community use.
That's correct. Currently, just to update, elected members, Endley Community Centre is half open to the public due to the fire that we had, so we're just working through that process in terms of the scope of work to get that completed. So we've actually given some lease relief for some of those providers who are actually impacted by the fire, who are unable to operate out of that facility at this time. So.
Thanks. Thank you.
Councillor Forsyth?
Yeah, look, I just thank you. Thanks for the detailed report. Just want to confirm that this is the application of the new community facilities policy
That's correct. The community occupancy policy. That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Pascoe, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a very quick one. Also under the Ruakura Puaroa o Tainui, we use a commercial lease agreement there. Is that something that's quite unusual for us to use? Is it the standard Auckland Law Society commercial lease, is it?
We started there on a commercial lease, but I guess with the review of the community occupancy policy and the defining of the community group, they align with the community occupancy. So we used to receive off a commercial lease,
the market rate.
Yeah.
but now going forward it will be a community occupancy defined.
And so we're reviewing that regularly to make sure that they maintain their community status. And,
Yeah, we have community outcome plans for all of our leaseholders, and we make sure that they are delivering on what we hope they'll be delivering for the
Thank
community.
you.
All right, so if there's no other questions, I'm happy to move on. The Deputy Mayor, Deputy Mayor, will you also agree to add in that the CE is to report to the council meeting in May on future options for the Caro Street building?
I'll second.
Right, seconded by councillor Young. Got that? Is there any debate on this? Yes, councillor King?
It's great to see that 6 of these leases, excuse me, are connected with our old people in the Aged Concern building, and that it appears that the building's been saved from, dare I say it, I don't say it very often, the Ferrybank project, and it's just good to see this turnaround or change or freeing up again for our old people to occupy the building that they paid money into, they put money towards, and that they run. So I think it's a happy day.
Okay, any other speakers? Right, so we're voting on these. I think we can do it on the voices. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Carried, thank you, thank you. Gambling policy, item 11, page 53. So General Manager Sean Hickey speaking to this. I think, Sean, dare I say it, I think it is clear, the report is clear, even though it's been a long journey, it is complex.
Okay.
So I might start, unless there's anything you particularly want to draw our attention to, I might just see if there's questions.
Okay.
Okay. Questions, councillors? No questions? Right, I'm going to move then the recommendation on page 53, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Okay, so we'll go to...
I've got an amendment to put up.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't aware of that, councillor King. Could you put the amendment up, please? So are people happy to, for debate, to deal with them, the two together? I suppose it depends on what the amendment is. I didn't have, I haven't seen it before, so I'm not certain. Okay, it's clear, option A rather than B. Are you happy to debate those, the motion and the amendment together, councillors? Yes? Okay, we'll do that.
So Your Worship, we just need a second of a councillor
Yes,
King.
who's seconding this? Councillor McPherson is? So have you got the motion up? Can you put the motion up too, then? Is there a larger font? Right, so councillors, I think the report was sort of clear about what the next steps were. So we've got a motion and we've got an amendment. So I'll just speak briefly to the motion. This has been a long journey. And I'm satisfied that the decision that was made in the Strategy and Policy Committee is one I can support. And so I see this as simply confirming the work that the staff have done, and this will mean that there will be a consultation on the statement of proposal on the two further matters. And then councillors then have comfort that those two additional matters will then come back through the process, and that process is of course submissions and hearings for us to have around 4 or 5 of this policy, I think. So you've got a level of comfort there that ultimately the two additional changes will be tested with the public and we will have submissions on them. Any other speakers?
Yeah.
Councillor King?
Gambling is a harm, pastime, leisure, occupation, and this council for years has pretended that they've had a sinking lid policy, but we haven't. The machines get moved around from venue to venue. As a business, I'm not proposing for 1 minute that anybody who has poker machines on their premises lose the right to have them. They retain them and have grandfather rights for as long as they want them there. But when they're finished with that location, they don't sell them on for profit. They don't get moved around the city to the highest bidder, to whatever area is going to pay the most, albeit moved out of a high social deprivation area into more preferred areas when it's time for them to move, which has never happened in the history of this policy so far, because they're not going to get moved out of those areas because those are the areas where the money gets made. So what I'm proposing with this amendment is that the businesses who have them keep them, but when they're finished with them, when they're no longer profitable or they no longer work in the location they're in, then we lose that machine and the sinking lid policy takes effect. So I urge you to vote for the amendment.
Okay, any other speakers for or against? Councillor McPherson?
It's just in support of Councillor King's amendment, which I've seconded. There has been, I've seen stories in the recent past that the spend on this type of gambling, pokey machine gambling, has been reducing in the community. But I've just seen the quarterly figures for the month ending 31st of March, literally came in a press release from the Department of Internal Affairs today, which showed a 6.2% increase in the quarter over the same period last year. So that shrinkage is trending the opposite way now. The concern with people for that was therefore meant less money available for community activities and organisations. I don't think that can be advanced in the same way that it has been in the past, and I'm not saying actually that anyone in this room was advancing, but certainly the owners and purveyors of pokie machines have been advancing that sort of argument in the past. I think that there's been enough evidence about the harm from gambling addiction problems in the community to show that we could be, as all councils could be in the country, playing a bit of a bigger part in keeping a lid on it, as it were. So the type of lid I'd like to keep on it is a true sinking lid, and that's not anti any existing business who got their licences by following the rules according to the rules that were in place at the time. They would not be touched by it. But if they go out of business, then, or change for whatever their minds for whatever reason, then they would not be able to be transferred. And I think that's fair. I think that gradually over time we would see a reduction in some of the most harmful locations that Councillor King referred to, and that sort of grandparenting type or reverse grandparenting type clause is actually something that happens quite often. The government does it with batches that are on environmentally sensitive reserve land. They allow the existing owners to keep occupying it. When they cark it, so does the building get removed, and you know it's a time-honoured way of handling a tricky situation that's no one's fault, or it wasn't the occupier's fault originally. We didn't know the harm that pokies would cause when they were first brought in. Well, a few people did, but not many back in 1989. But the community certainly knows the harm now, And I think all I'm suggesting is we could play a marginally bigger part, or recommend to the community that Hamilton plays a marginally bigger part in keeping a lid on that harm.
Okay, any other speakers for or against? No? So we're going to go to the board to vote. The first is on the amendment.
Can we help?
Doesn't
Rob?
work.
I thought I pushed the button.
Do you want to reset it again?
Yeah.
It's being reset. Take your fingers off. All right, we go again.
Hit the button.
Stop.
Just not being allowed to put Councillor Chesterman back in, just bear with me.
Okay, so we're going to do it on the hands
How
here,
are you going to vote, Geordie?
so
Do it on
this
the
reminds
hands,
me,
yeah.
of course, of the
Oh,
conversation we had at the beginning, Chief Executive.
Is that a KPI, your worship?
Well, one wonders if it should be. It's been a long
Yes.
time in the making to bring us into this century.
Definitely a KPI now.
Yes. All right, so we're voting on the amendment on the hand. So Mary, can you conduct that for us, please?
So those for the amendment? And those against the amendment? The amendment has been lost, 4 votes to 6.
Right, so we're now voting on the motion. Okay, so those hands again, do we have to do the hands? Okay. Was it,
Those for the motion? And those against the motion? The motion has been carried, 6 votes to 4.
okay, thank you very much. Right, the next item is item 12, page 86, and this is the submissions to the freshwater, next steps for freshwater. So you'll recall that we had a discussion on this in finance, and we agreed that it would come forward today. And this was circulated last night to pick up the comments that we had, and we understood it would be a late item. So councillors, are there any further questions or queries on this in terms of the inclusion of the items we raised? I think on page 4, I think you've captured at 5.2 what the matter was. And I note that there has been quite a lot of publicity recently in the media about, you know, these bottling companies, so quite timely to include this. I think that captures what we said, so thank you for that. So are there any questions on this submission or any further comments to make?
I'll move. How do you envisage, how does this envisage the financial return of selling water itself?
Sorry, councillor King, what is your question? Are you talking about 5.2?
Yeah, I am talking about 5.2.
Okay, does that adequately cover the points that we raised the other day?
So, okay, so the first point I'd like to make about it is the proposal to trade between holders of consents, even although there's no profit in it.
It's paragraph 6 then.
Yep. Even although there's no profit in it, by introducing that, surely we're making it into a commodity, even although it may not have, even although the policy says that no one owns fresh water. But by owning a consent that's tradable, surely that introduces a value. I'm asking the writer of the report I mean, you must understand more about this issue than us councillors.
Well, the key thrust of item of 5.2 in the submission is encouraging the government to broaden the debate and whether there should be a value placed on water is one of the areas in which the councillors thought the debate should be widened.
So by putting a value on water, doesn't that indicate that there's ownership? But I mean, you can't sell something you don't own. And I thought the overriding principle of this was that no one owns fresh water. And then we're proposing that we make it tradable if we have an over allocation.
No, I don't
There's
think
two
this,
things going on here. There's the tradable aspect of the over allocation, which automatically introduces, if not a value in financial terms, it certainly gives leverage. And, yeah,
I don't think anywhere in the submission does it suggest that consents would be tradable. It talks about transfers of consents and that the submission supports the concept of transferring consents provided, and this is at 6.1, provided the transfers are subject to strict criteria and are managed by the regional council that issued the original consent. So back in 5.2, the submission is just saying there is wider issues here related to the economic use of water that council thinks should be discussed.
thank you.
So councillors, the submissions as presented have been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by myself. Unless there are any further questions or an amendment, I'm going to put that. No? Okay, we're going to have to do that on the hands as well because there's the machine. Try the machine again.
I've now got Councillor Chesterman back in, so we can give it another go.
Okay, we'll try.
Margaret left, so.
Hands.
Reset.
On Margaret's one.
So we're voting on this now.
Still show of
So,
hands.
no, it's not working. Okay.
Show of hands,
It's not
that's
working.
KPI, another.
All right. So those in favour of the submissions, can you raise your hand? Can you call the names out and everything?
It's easier to do it the other way. Do it
Might be.
against first.
Those in favour, Her Worship the Mayor Hardacre, Councillors Chesterman, Young, Gallagher, Pascoe, O'Leary. McPherson, is that your hand up, Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor
It's getting
McPherson
tired, it's been up so long.
and Councillor Tooman.
Those against?
Those against? Councillor King. It's carried.
Thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda is with you, Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, I'm happy to bring forward the recommendation from last week's Finance Committee on Riverlea Theatre, the sale and purchase, and rather than read it out, just briefly summarise that the agreement was to sell the land on which the theatre's building is sited for a discount on the original agreement, which was agreed on in 2014. So I'm happy to move.
Second.
Right, seconded by Councillor Gallagher. Is there any discussion on this matter?
I'll move an amendment.
Right, could you state that amendment, please?
That we sell the property at the original, as per the original, well, that we sell the property for 350,000 without the property marked in the red area, by the red line.
seconder to that amendment? There's no seconder, councillor King, so that won't be put on the floor. All right, so if there's no other discussions of this, we'll have to use the hands again. All those in favour, raise your hand.
Her Worship the Mayor Hardacre, councillors Chesterman, Young, Gallagher, Pascoe, O'Leary, McPherson and Tooman.
Those against?
Councillor King.
Right, thank you. Item, about page 89, this is from the CCO subcommittee. Now, in Councillor Mallett's absence, this is a recommendation from that subcommittee, so I'm happy to move that recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Pascoe. Is there any discussion on this matter? I'm going to do this again on the voices. Then all those in favour, raise your hand. You just, could you raise your hand so Mary can see? This also helps the Chief Executive understand our dilemma, and Councillor McPherson saying his hand got sore being held up for so long.
I thought they were waving at me.
It's a royal wave, Dave.
All right,
Back to
those in
tradition.
Every
favour?
time the hands go up, the salary goes down by grand.
Okay, those against? Okay, there's no.
Carried
Right,
unanimously.
thank you. Thank you very much.
You've been in the commercial world too long, Dave.
Okay, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, right. Councillor McPherson, you're going in 5, are you?
Sorry,
Right.
5 what?
Okay, we've got
My hand is
item 15, page 90. Now, this again,
5:30, sorry, Your Worship, I said.
yeah, 5:30, yeah. So this again is a recommendation from the CTO subcommittee, and
I'm happy to move.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question.
yes, okay,
When
I
you're
just
ready to move.
just making sure, councillors, you got the sort of the updated one that just had the notes more clearer. Councillor Young, your question?
Yep, based on the document we received on page 2, B, so because the trust board now consists at least 5, but not more than 7, so for B, should it be changed to at least 4, but no more than 6 other person appointed by?
Where are you, councillor Young?
Oh, page 2 on this
Of
new
the extra one
correct.
we got, yes,
That's the new document, yep.
yes. And 7B, are you?
Yeah, if you look at 5.1 first,
Yes,
that's the trust board is 5, but no more than 7. And then you go to the next page on B, at least 2, but not more than 4. That means should change to 4 and 6. That make up the number correct. Right?
right. Yes.
Yep. The
quite-
number is incorrect,
I
yeah.
think that's right, actually.
Yeah.
Richard, that's correct? It's just a numbers,
Yeah.
yes, they
Sean?
haven't been taken over, have they?
Yep. So it need to be 4
Are you
and
with
6.
us? Are you with us, General Manager?
That's it, thank you.
Yes, because if 4 are appointed and 1 is 5.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, actually, I
So-
think it
That
does
can
work. It does work.
So you can have basically 5 members, and Mayor can be.
Because the mayor is
At
1,
least 5, yeah.
so at least
Oh, but it's a no more than 4.
4.
Yeah.
Yes,
Is it?
it's a no more than 4 because
No,
the 4 and
because
1 add up
trust
to
board
5 and
becomes 5
7.
to 7, and then the mayor plus 4, but no more than 6, right?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
for
because you
us.
won't then get 7.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's-
Okay.
Need to change that. Right, thank you.
Okay, so that's got to be changed,
Right.
sorry, to 4 and 6, is it?
4 and 6, yeah.
Is that right, Richard?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll move.
Yeah, so councillor Pascoe has moved with that
I
change.
second.
Councillor Pascoe, happy with that change?
Yes, happy with that
Councillor Young has seconded. Now, councillor McPherson's no longer here, is this right? Okay.
We've got 7.
Well, he's leaving, I've got to leave.
So we're okay?
We're okay still.
Right, still.
Still got a quorum.
Oh, okay.
Until someone gets up and leaves.
Yes, all right. All right, any other questions on this? No? So we're going to do this on the hands. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Carried. Thanks very much. Okay, so we are now on to public excluded items. So I'll move that we go into public excluded, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank